I'm going to call on Commissioner Howell, then Commissioner Zimmer.
If there's any development on the site, we want to make sure we get it right. And I have serious reservations regarding what is being proposed by the county. The public comes to this beach because it isn't paved. They come to it because as they feel what the coast was like before the condos, before the hotels, before the asphalt. I'm also strongly opposed to limiting public access by closing the beach at night. This is a dangerous precedent to set. If we really want to put a stop to crime along the coast, safest bet is just to eliminate beach access to humans, period.
Commissioner Zimmer?
This case is a wonderful example of not only the importance of familiarity with a site and also the importance of good public participation in a process. Because I have to say, coming into this, I didn't know how I felt about the staff recommendation. I had some concerns about it. So in being reminded of what this actually looks like and the rural quality of this area, I do feel like we need to tone it down in terms of the improvements. And I like the idea of a more gravel, evened out parking area. I like the idea of improving the accessibility of the trail, just in terms of how uneven it is and how difficult it is to walk on, but without making it into a formal trail. So just in the name of really preserving pieces of the California coast the way I remember them, and I hope that they can be accessible to my children and grandchildren, I strongly support Commissioner Howell's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schallenberger, then Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Kinsey. I want to add my support to the amendment, and I have two additional reasons for that. One is we've had this before where their local government and their law enforcement comes before us and says they have a significant problem. It's usually on their beaches with generally victimless crimes. And the problem, I understand, and there's no question from looking at the pictures, the problem is real, but the solution's wrong. We don't take a public resource such as our beaches and our coast, and in order to help law enforcement out, because local governments have constrained budgets, deny it for the public. That's punishing the law-abiding citizen who has a right to access to their coast to be banned from it because there's an inability for the local government to adequately patrol it and make it safe for them. So I do recognize that local governments have budget constraints, but that isn't a reason to take away the public's access to what is rightfully theirs. So that argument for me never takes the day for me, that there's crime in an area, and so that the public has a right to a public trust, and therefore we should keep them out of it. The other thing is the one member of the public testified about the potential, we think, we've all been told in the offing, perhaps a very large hotel complex going in up on the above this area. And so I just want to kind of say the unspoken here, that Pirates Cove is very unique, not just because it's beautiful and because it's difficult to get to and all of that, and because of its history, but it is one of the few beaches in California that I know of where it's well recognized that clothing is optional. And I find that a wonderful thing, and so do many other people. And my concern is to overdevelop the access to this, to Pirates Cove, in a way that I use over only for in this situation, but It does feel like it's the first step to being part of a larger development above it, and the next thing you know, it will no longer be clothing optional. And I just see it coming, and I think that this is part of the character that of this area that we are charged to preserve, and we're not asked to preserve that very much, and I'm glad to try and do it myself. So I am in complete support of Commissioner Howell's amendment, and if it passes the main amendment, because I think the main motion, because I think the trail is very, very important.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell, then Commissioner Vargas.
I too will be strongly supporting the motion and agree with the comments of Commissioner Howell and Commissioner Zimmer. The preservation of this resource is so important, and I think by doing the trail, we will accomplish that, but not paving the parking lot. I do want to say congratulations and kudos, frankly, to the Friends of Pirates Cove and the appellants and their supporters, because frequently we see people from the public testify who are very passionate about an issue, but that doesn't always mean that they're articulate, that they are covering the issues that are important to the Coastal Commission. And I think you did an amazing job of being incredibly persuasive, thoughtful, and on point. So I applaud you. I really do. And I've been on here for a while, so I've not said that before. I do want to say that I'm disappointed because I think a lot of the issues that the sheriff and the local government has raised are trash issues, and I'm not sure why there are not trash cans there and those trash cans are picked up, because certainly the runoff and the trash that would go into the ocean from not having trash cans on site is a huge problem. But that's easily solved, and it's not closing the beach, it's putting up some trash cans and dumping the trash cans. So I would highly encourage that to happen sooner rather than later. But again, thank you all for coming out, for your hard work on this really important issue, and for protecting part of my childhood. So, thank you. Oh.
Commissioner Vargas.
Is this on? Not sure if the nude beach is part of Commissioner Mitchell's childhood, but I'm sure God bless her and her family for raising her the way she did. I just want to echo the sentiments of my fellow commissioners. I won't go on that much, and Commissioner Mitchell stole my thunder a little bit in me thinking that there needed to be a trash can there. But, you know, I want to sympathize with the county of San Luis Obispo. I understand and I sympathize that there are issues of criminal activity that needs to be dealt with, and that's a challenge, and you need to come up with a solution. But it was helpful to hear the staff say that there are different ways of coming up with these solutions, and maybe this was not the most low intensive way to kind of solve the problem. There may be other ways. Precisely as Commissioner Mitchell said, if there's a problem of the crime of littering, how about we just add a trash can? If there's a problem of desecration of sacred sites, how about we contemplate a plan to add signage, historical signage that talks about the importance of this site to the Native Americans and to the people of California. If there are other types of illegal activity going on, how about we add, from the county's perspective, how about we add a patrol car or two that goes down there at night and make sure that nothing illegal is happening. You don't need to close the heavy-handed measure of closing a beach, to the public to do that. As far as the parking lot and the pavement goes, I don't see the project or the plan adding more parking spaces than are currently there. I'm looking on the Google Maps site right now, and I could see a lot of cars, almost 70, 80 cars there right now. It doesn't look like there will be more cars gained. So if this is going to be for some type of environmental protection, then I'd love to see if there's a more environmentally sensitive way to do it. And at this point, I'm going to support what my colleague Commissioner Howell is suggesting. But also, just kind of a lesson learned. Not to dwell too much. I know we all want to get out on a Friday afternoon. I spent my 4th of July holiday weekend in Yosemite. It happened to be the 150th anniversary of the Yosemite National Park. And Yosemite has a very interesting, I think, parable or to kind of parallel for this park. 150 years ago, it became a park. People were very excited to bring the public and increase public access to this little-known gem of America. And some would suggest that they went a little overhand. They went overboard, in particular in areas like the Mariposa Grove. If you go there now, or in the, starting in the 60s and 70s, it just became almost an amusement park. They paved they paved paradise. And, if you go there now, there are trams and all kinds of distractions, but it takes away from the glory and the nature and the scenic beauty there. So, that week, 4th of July week, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, they started a groundbreaking on the restoration of the Mariposa Grove to bring it back to restore it to its old beauty, to the beauty that it once had. And there's an understanding there that you can have public assets in their virgin state, and that's not a bad thing. And how do we be a little bit more thoughtful and contemplative of how we provide raw, natural, beautiful assets while being careful and considerate of public safety and criminal activity and environmental degradation? But how do we approach these things with as little impact as possible? So I think Commissioner Howell's proposal is probably the most sensible way to go for now. I don't want that, my support of that to mean to be indicative of us not wanting or not appreciating the county wanting, being desirous of doing something, and that they should want to try and do something. I just wish that we can maybe brainstorm less impactful ways of approaching those solutions.
Is there any unwillingness for unanimous yes vote? Seeing none, we will approve in part and deny in part the application.